Alright, so beginning on to chapter 9 here, I highly recommend a save at this point, just because part coming up, there can be bugs and clips that happen that would warrant just quitting and restarting. But we walk into the barracks here and we see our first instance of a Twitcher over in the far side of the barracks. They are going to be kind of annoying, but not really too much of a problem. With the force gun, we can always activate their stasis on them. But watch for this electrical panel on the floor. I know you have a lot of time to go past it, but you might as well just wait if you're unsure. But we'll get to the Twitcher's little bit whenever we face it in this hallway coming up. There will be a scripted Twitcher down on the far side of the hall to let you know that they're fast as hell and don't get stunned. So if you can see the blue little glowing light on its chest, that is its stasis unit that melded into its flesh. As you can see, we just activated by stomping on him. But if you hit it, it will put him into a state of stasis that slows him momentarily. Regular stasis actually has no effect on a Twitcher, so you might as well not even try and stasis them. The prototype unit actually does work in the fact that it will stun them for a very brief duration, but the stasis effect on the prototype unit has absolutely no effect. But once we pull this battery, we're going to have a Twitcher come out. I like to use the force gun because you don't have to hit them point blank in the stasis unit. You just aim in their general direction and half the time it will be popped. But there is also an infector that spawns on the right. That's why you saw me drag the bodies over to my side of the room so it couldn't infect them. But if we walk out this door, there will be a power node on the wall, which we will grab. And after that, we can start transporting the battery back to the elevator where the other battery broke. So the force gun is very, very much valuable in this chapter in that it saves us a bunch of shots. Because the force gun has such a wide area of effect, it basically can't miss, but it will still affect the Twitchers and CC them briefly. So this chapter is actually one of the main driving forces of the force gun, just that it saves us all of this ammunition and panic, so. But here we just hit the fuse. We go inside the torpedo bay. Do not fire a shot in this room. In fact, if you miss one of these rods somehow, or one of the rods isn't here, just immediately quit out of this and go back to your save point. Because there are 2 exploders in this room, and if you hit one of them and they explode, you die instantly. So never let a shot go off in this room if you can absolutely help it. I would highly recommend just using the rods, and like I said, if you miss or one of them is missing, because you get 2, if one of them is missing, just quit out to your save immediately. It's safer to just restart and deal with the one Twitcher again than to deal with getting blown up in chapter 9 and losing all of your progress. But after that, we just destroy all the switches by hitting them. It saves us on shots. And then we deposit the nuke down into the bay there. I didn't want the exploder pod, I wanted the material that he dropped. I would recommend just leaving the pods where they lie, because the less you mess with them, the better. If one of them goes off in the room, then you just die, so just don't mess with them.
Yeah, I know. I'm downloading a munitions report right now. I'll clear your route to the engine room. Grab that singularity core and let's get out of here.
So we're going to carry on after the warhead room. In this next room that's coming up, if you run to the left, you'll actually activate 2 Twitchers, so we just stay immediately in line with the door. So if you run to the left here, you'll activate 2 Twitchers, but there is a divider coming our way. So I gravity well him to suck him in, and then use the explosive canisters that were sucked in with him to deal a little bit of extra damage. And then we just start dealing with the divider without moving from the door at all. So just make sure to stay in line with the door, because as soon as you move away to the left here, dividers will come in, or not dividers, twitchers will come in, and it'll make it significantly harder to deal with everything. So here I go and activate them. As you can see, they drop down. And now we just have to deal with them. I use the force gun, as always. As you can see, I don't really have to aim it that well. It's basically a shotgun, so think of it like that. The shorter range they are, the more damage it'll do. So then I set up a firewall for whenever they're on the ground. Twitchers are the one enemies where cutting off their legs will still make them a pretty decent threat, as they are still fast as hell. So we end up dealing with them. I grab the materials out of this chest, and then we're going to go into the shooting range here. Now, a bit of a change from the original. Instead of just being able to willy-nilly shoot whatever you want here, you don't have to fire shots, by the way. You can just hit these guys. It still activates the event regardless. So I just go around hitting them. Saves you on shots. But different from the original, we end up having a scripted event here after doing a certain amount that a bunch of necromorphs are going to come down and start attacking us. As you can see, there's an enhanced slasher there, and there is a twitcher in the back, who I actually hit with the force gun at that range. As you can see, knocked down. But don't think that they're going to be down for very long. They are still fast. Everything they do is sped up like 300%, so you have to be mindful whenever a twitcher is in the room. And like I said, they are unaffected by normal stasis except for the shock on the prototype stasis. So force gun really does help in that regard. But in this room, I like to sit back in this corner as nothing will affect me, or nothing will jump out from behind me or around me. And then we'll deal with the exploder first off. So we get rid of the priority threat, and then we start dealing with the babies. And here, this one took quite a few shots, but we still got rid of it. And once the lights turn from red back to normal, you know that you're good. You can start going around collecting things. And you don't want to forget the lockers that open up after you do this, because there are nodes and semiconductors and other random materials in there. So you definitely want to make it worth your while to grab the stuff that you earned. Now we're going to go into the next section in the infirmary room, which this guy is just chilling there. You don't have to worry about him. Make sure to grab this large med pack schematic on the left side of the room whenever you enter. But here, I don't freeze the lasers, I just let the twitcher run into it first. Then you can grab his material, and then wait until the laser's in the middle and starting to shift over to the left to stasis it. But here, this twitcher is really odd. I've had him run straight into the laser, and then other times I've had him just sit there. So he's kind of an oddball. I let him do his behavior for a second to see if he'll end up running into the laser himself and getting rid of him. But there is a stasis recharge on the wall, so we can grab that while we're in this room as well. And here we'll go over to the left. There is an electrified panel with all of these bags, but there is a door on the left, if you can see it. So we'll want to grab the materials in that room because they're free, and the only danger is the electrified panel, which is easily dodgeable. So as soon as you see the panel go off, just run, start tapping the door, get through. And there is another cabinet on the wall next to the door. And here, since I'm unsure if the panel's about to activate or not, I just wait. You basically just want to use patience whenever it comes to these panels if you're unsure. The only time that I'm sure that a panel won't be activating is later on, whenever we're running to get out of here. And this is a okay time to save as well. We're having a huge cargo bay fight coming up, so we definitely want something of a safety net if you're going to use the save quit exploit on this, but like I said, I know I don't. And there are stasis canisters littered throughout the place here, but as soon as we go up past these boxes to these lockers, it'll activate the fight. But we do have enough time to loot the lockers before that point. So now we have 2 stasis canisters with us. There is going to be a pregnant, some twitchers, some lurkers, so we need to be looking for them. It's easy enough since past these 2 boxes, nothing will spawn behind you. You never have to worry about your back here, so everything will just come from the front. So I get rid of the lurkers and the pregnant. Now we have an exploder, so prioritize them. And this will summon in the twitchers. You can always tell because they have the flashy, kind of staticky glitch. Even in the distance, they're really bright. But I just use the force gun as always. If you let them in close, you can't really miss, so. But there was a second one coming. And even if you cut off their leg, like I was saying, they are fast, as you can see, but it does still cripple their movement in that they're not as fast as running. But in the background, you can see the brute coming our way. Here I actually take the advantage of the fact that we have prototype stasis and there is a shock panel in front of us. So I let him come up, try and get him positioned over the panel, but he stopped just short. I knew he was launching a pod, so I just started hiding behind boxes. But you'll see that I'm using the panel to shock him with. And like I said, there is a stasis recharge on the wall of this room, so just use that. If you start running low, it's over back to the left where we first looted the lockers. And the stasis unit will hold the brute in place for long enough for us to run and grab a recharge. So I just use another one there, hold him in place, grab a recharge, come back. He's not going anywhere since we have the prototype unit. And there I actually force gunned him off of the panel, but he just walks right back on. So we can let the panel do all of the heavy lifting here along with our stasis. Since we don't have to fire a shot, we save a lot of ammo. And you'll know that the fight is over as soon as you hear the computer say that. A lot of the time, a lot of these scripted fights are just, you wait for the confirmation from the computer as soon as the quarantine lifted is over or the lights come on or anything like that. You'll know that the area is safe. And there are more lockers here, so we grab that. Just loot everything in the room. There is stuff scattered all about on the floor and all of that. But the one particular place we want to make sure that we loot is where the brute busted out here in this holding area. Because there is a semiconductor in here. And then there's also 2 locker or cabinets back here that we want to grab. It's not as valuable as the semiconductor, but it is still materials, so it's worth it to grab them. But now we'll move on to the engine room. Make sure to grab the material on the right here. It's kind of hidden. It's random, so you'll get anything and everything, but it is still worth it. The pipes, I just use the little divots on the left to make sure that I'm there. If you walk forward and then hold to the left, you'll know that you're in the safe spot whenever you're in the divot. but then the last one doesn't deactivate, so we have to use the box to go through. Here, just wait for the engine to go off and then run through. But now we have to walk our way with the box. It's nothing too insane. You can actually just set the box down and then walk through if you want to make it easier. But we activate the suppression system here and then get attacked by 3 leapers. So there's one in the far back there, one spawns on the other side of the engine, and the other one spawns right in front of us. We basically just pull out the force gun and clean house, as always. The force gun has the unique property of peeling layers off of the necromorphs too, making their limbs more vulnerable to dismemberment. Here I got lucky and the engine took care of the third one, so there is a third one, be aware of that, but sometimes you'll get lucky and the engine will actually take it out for you. But now we're going to go over to where the pipes were constantly firing before, and there will be a leaper that pops out in front of us. Here I just stun him and you opt for Stomp. Because the prototype stasis unit keeps them in place for a good 7 or 8 seconds of pure stun, you can just stomp any leaper from this point on. But we grab the power node that it was guarding and then head our way up the elevator, grab the materials on our way. And then we'll have a cutscene involving Hammond. If anybody remembers in the original, it's not a brute that rips him apart and kills him, but
another malfunction.
Something else.
Some words in the red. Someone get the door open. Chen? What did that thing do to you? Help me get him to the Kelly. Shoot him. It's not Chen. Shoot him! What? Shoot him! Chen? No. You're what killed him. Oh God.
So after Hammond's unfortunate death, we grab the Singularity Core and start running our ass out of the Valor as it starts wanting to explode on us. So we run out the door to the right, another right, go down the elevator.
Oh my God. Fuck! The Valor's gonna blow!
But here you're not really going to get a whole lot of enemies until this mess hall. I like to go around to the right, just because there's electric panels in the middle and everything. There are materials in this room, but between dealing with the Twitchers hitting me and grabbing the materials, I just don't worry about it. If you have enough time, then you can just kinesis them, but I fire off a single shot in that room to deal with the Twitcher that ends up in front of me and then just run out. But once we get back to the barracks here, this is the electric panel that I'm talking about. You can just grab the material out of that bunk, but here this panel is always scripted. Well, not really scripted, but it is always timed perfectly where you can just run through it. So I just do that. You don't have to worry about it causing you to die or anything with the explosions. You can actually wait at that panel if you're unsure or don't want to do the run straight through. So if you want to wait for it, you can. But other than that, that's the end of Chapter 9. We're just going to have dialogues with Kendra, and that's the end of the USM Valor, but not the end of the Twitchers, so we're going to actually have those guys on our ship here. But let me know what you guys think, and have a good one.
Isaac, come in.
I'm here. Fuck, that was close.
Chen, Johnson, now Hammond. And I'm tracking movement from the Valor. I think some of those mutated soldiers made it on board. What about the Valor's Singularity Core?
It's covered in blood, but I got it. God, I hope Hammond was right about that shuttle.
He said it was on the crew deck, along with every unitologist on the ship and their marker. You'll need to... Wait, someone's opened the door near the bridge atrium? It'll get you to the crew deck, but who's left with that kind of clearance? Isaac, something's up, but we have to get that shuttle. For God's sake, be careful. We're all that's left.